everyone. My name is Lila, and I'm so grateful to share this space with you all tonight. I would like to begin by offering gratitude to the indigenous peoples of this land. We are resting on the Lenape-Hoking, the ancestral homelands of the Ramapo Lenape people of the past, present, and future. And throughout the next few minutes, I invite you to consider your own positionality on this land and ways that we can collectively work towards honoring movements for Native sovereignty and also for the protection of this ecosystem in which many of us find our homes. One of the ways I propose we can work towards both of these goals is through agriculture. What you see on the screen behind me is a depiction of the three sisters. This is a companion planting technique that uses squash, beans, and maize, or what we now call corn. And this practice is largely attributed to the Lenape people and a variety of other indigenous communities in North and Central America. And the three sisters are sisters for the following reason. These plants are working together to create a holistic system that flourishes in ways that each plant cannot on their own. The three sisters reveal the way in which growing food can replenish human communities while also replenishing ecosystems and the other species involved. And this is precisely the type of agriculture that interests me most. So let's explore how this works. It begins with the soil. The beans in this system are legumes, which means that they have the unique capability to capture atmospheric nitrogen and make it available in the soil, which provides a really essential nutrient for the squash and the corn to thrive on. When it comes to water, the squash are spreading their broad leaves across the earth, which helps retain moisture in the soil to feed all of the plants involved. And then the corn produces a vertical stalk, so the beans can climb up. And what this enables is what some may call agricultural biodiversity. What this is simply describing is how multiple species are existing at once. And agricultural biodiversity is really just mimicking a wild ecosystem while honoring the nutrient cycles at play. And when eaten together, these plants are not only delicious, but they actually provide a really balanced diet full of proteins, carbohydrates, vitamins, and minerals. And for all of these reasons, corn, beans, and squash arise in many sacred teachings for indigenous communities, creating a strong link between cultural tradition and Earth's natural systems. And of course, the human link comes back into this system when eager and grateful hands are placing the seeds back in the soil. And this is precisely what regenerative agriculture is all about. How can we grow food in ways that contribute towards the regeneration of all? I see regenerative agriculture not only as crucial in climate change mitigation strategies, but fundamentally as a way to see the act of growing food as an act of reciprocity rather than extraction, to provide healthy and affordable produce to the communities that really need it most, and to challenge this narrative that humans and Earth are separate. So why is regenerative agriculture important today? Why now? Unfortunately, the food system that sustains most of us in this room, what many may call the industrial food system, is rooted in extraction, exploitation, and injustice. Rather than replenishing our communities and ecosystems, the industrial food system is often exacerbating climate change and the variety of consequences that are involved. And these are just a few examples of what that really looks like. What you see behind me, highlighted in yellow, represents the 34% of Earth's terrestrial land that is currently occupied by agriculture. This is the combined area of North America, Central America, South America, and a huge portion of Southeast Asia. And what this essentially means is that agriculture is utilizing more land than any other industry on the planet. When it comes to the addition of new cropland, 80% of that is replacing existing forests, and 70% of all global freshwater is solely dedicated to agricultural irrigation. To bring in a bit of the human element into this, you'd think that if agriculture is utilizing all of these resources globally, then we'd be feeding everybody. But we know that that's not true. It's estimated that 821 million people globally are food insecure, 50 million alone in the United States. And I really want to point out just a sliver of the inequities that are present in this second number, which is that white communities are 4 times as likely to have access to a supermarket than those with predominantly African American populations. So when you add all of this together, Earth could potentially look like something like this, What's highlighted in yellow, again, is what is either currently occupied by global agricultural systems or it's under threat. And it was precisely by understanding this large-scale impact, along with its intersections in racial and economic justice, that led me to the work that I do now. In my studies and also outside of school, I focus on building equitable and resilient local food systems, primarily by working alongside small-scale farmers, providing training and resources for aspiring farmers, and also by working with organizations that are building resilient urban food systems in particular. So throughout the past 2 years, and with the generous support of Gallatin and also the Earth Institute at Columbia University, I've had the unique opportunity to visit more than 20 farms in 5 countries. And this process has brought me so much hope and inspiration. And that's what I want you all to remember. What I'll show you now are just 5 examples from farms that I visited here in New York State, in the ecosystem that we are all in. And these farms are all embodying the practices that I've outlined. So let's begin once again with soil. Rise and Root Farm in Chester, New York taught me that before anybody can grow food, we must learn how to cultivate our soil. So what they're doing is capturing all organic material that doesn't go to the market, things like weeds, stalks, stems, or failed crops, and they are composting it on site, which essentially means that they're creating a really nutrient-dense fertilizer for future growing seasons. This not only allows them to save money by not having to purchase external fertilizer, but it also ensures that the farm is pretty much producing 0 waste. The second farm I'd like to talk about is Oko Farms, based in Brooklyn, New York. And while many may challenge the idea that a tech-based farm might not be included in our understanding of regenerative agriculture, I think that Oko Farms might be an exception. They're utilizing a practice called aquaponics. This means that fish and plants are cultivated in one circular, water-based system. So while the fish poop provides the essential nutrients for the plants are actually cleaning the water and creating a wonderful habitat for the fish to thrive in. So this allows these farmers to not just produce rice and tilapia in the middle of Brooklyn, but also allows them to capture rainwater, which means that they're using significantly less water than a conventional farm. And next is this 1.5-acre rooftop farm based in Brooklyn, New York. They're producing tens of thousands of produce for New Yorkers every year. And while that's really impressive, what captivates me is the ability of this rooftop to provide crucial habitats for pollinator species, bringing in birds and bees and other beneficial insects into a city that has largely decimated their native habitats. This not only bolsters the crops on their farm, but it also strengthens the variety of green spaces that we have here in New York. Next is the Stone Barn Center for Food and Agriculture. They're really pushing the boundaries of where farming ends and where ecosystem preservation begins. With more areas of protected forest on their property than farmland, they're showing how preserving the entire ecosystem not only creates better food, but actually a more resilient agricultural system in the long run. And last is Soulfire Farm. With the mission of uprooting racism and injustice in the food system, Soulfire Farm is empowering farmers of color to decolonize agriculture through farmer trainings, the cultivation of culturally relevant crops, and the integration of indigenous farming practices with the techniques that represent the variety of farmers on their team. They also offer something called a solidarity share, which provides free produce to undocumented members of their community. And they also sell their vegetables on a sliding scale to meet the varied economic needs of New Yorkers. I think all of this can really be summarized by the words of their lead farmer, whose name is Leah Penniman, and she's also the author of the book called Farming While Black. She says that we must feed ourselves to liberate ourselves. And what I think she's really reminding us is that the food system is at the root of our society, that the injustices that arise on the field also arise in our bodies and on our land and in our communities. She's also proposing then that agriculture is a space for liberation and a space for resistance. Farming literally allows us to cultivate the worlds that we are striving to create. So in your own pursuits to uproot and recreate the unjust structures of today, I invite you to see where food and agriculture might intersect with your work. I invite you to inquire about the hands and seeds and soils that enable food to land on your plate. And I ultimately invite you to forever see yourself as a crucial part of the earth. Thank you.